Hello, you're watching Real Simple News with Coffee on Saturday, August 1st, 2020. I'm your host, Cale McCullough, and for today's top news story, several U.S. Marshals were injured by homemade weapons and relentless Portland attacks, according to the New York Post. Bricks, batteries, frozen water bottles, slingshots with ball bearings, and even feces were among the homemade weapons thrown at the federal marshals in Portland, who described the daily war zone as recent violent protest in the city. And they left out too also the laser pointers that can blind you. At least 20 deputies from the U.S. Marshals Service have been injured, suffering cuts and concussions over more than 2 months of guarding the Mark O. Hatfield Federal Courthouse, a focus point of violent protests, which began after the May death of George Floyd in police custody because he died of a fentanyl overdose because he was an intravenous drug addict and he was banging meth and heroin and he OD'd on the fentanyl and he had a heart attack in the ambulance after the EMT checked his pulse when Officer Chauvin got off of him. So this whole Democrat, BLM, Antifa-Nazi race riot thing is all based off of fake news. Fake news. Bunch of crazy lefties burning our city down. The relentless attacks have included demonstrators launching professional fireworks and mortar rounds stuffed with nails at the Marshals, and violence has taken its toll, says Russell Berger, the federal marshal of Oregon. Quote, "They live in this community. They go to church here. All our friends and family are here. And so night after night to come under attack is very stressful for them," end quote. Berger said in an interview with NBC News, and let's not forget, it's also very stressful for the black people too. All right. People be getting PTSD, dude. People think they can't leave their houses right now because people are going to attack them. And it's happening to Trump supporters because BLM has turned into a hate group. They're the BLM anti-fascist Nazis because Nazis started out, there was the Antifa were brawling with the Nazis, and then eventually they realized they had a common enemy with the German Socialist Democratic Party that was controlled by the Jews, which is funny because Bernie Sanders is a Jew. And the Antifa joined with the Nazis because they had a common enemy that they hated so bad they were willing to kill. And because they were willing to kill, they sold their souls to the devil. And this was right after the women's suffrage movement. Look, fascism came from the women's suffrage movement. Look it up. Women in Germany got their voting right in 1918. It's a fact. Come on. And then fascists were the ones who were pushing for women's suffrage. And once the women got their voting rights, they then proceeded to mass slaughter hundreds, or that wasn't hundreds of millions, tens of millions of people. They didn't have to fight the wars, so it didn't really matter too much to them. People think they were like Republicans because they were anti-feminist, but the truth is that they believed that, well, they observed that traditional family structures were stronger and they were all about strength. So to say that because they were anti-feminist was the reason why they were Nazis, no, this is absolutely 100% not true. And it's nonsensical. It doesn't make any sort of sense in the world. The truth is they were Nazis because they were part of an equality movement. They wanted to bring a socialist utopia to Europe. National Socialism was supposed to be a more evolved version of socialism where you could own private property, but the government still, everything, the means of production were still socially owned, because that's the definition of socialism, is that things are socially owned. And then they voted, the women didn't know what they were doing in politics, so they voted for absolute monsters. And then, well, we know the rest of the history, but it's whitewashed. And I do in detail describe the history if you want to check out prior shows. There's some of the thumbnails actually have World War II history in them. Look at those ones, like the BLM Antifa Nazi Cabal explained. Let's read further on in this article. It says, when the courthouse was boarded up and the fence built around the perimeter after the July 4th weekend, the Marshals faced increasingly brutal attacks, said Berger, including one deputy who was attacked with a hammer. 3 are still waiting to see if they have permanent eye damage from the lasers pointed at them by protesters, according to NBC report. Berger claimed the attacks were coordinated by rioters working with militant groups such as Antifa and the Pacific Northwest Youth Liberation Front, an anarchist group composed of anti-fascist teenagers. So here's some of the weapons that they confiscated. They confiscated magazines and Molotov cocktails. Like, these guys are ready to go to war. Yeah, peaceful protest, right? Only they're out with weapons, looking for a fight. Protesters used portable radios and encrypted messages on cell phones to organize their efforts, which usually began after midnight, with up to 300 violent protesters who stayed behind after peaceful protest came to an end, which would be noise complaints, disorderly conduct at night. They regularly lay out hockey sticks embedded with nails under the tires of government vehicles. Oh, so that's what that picture was. I guess there's nails on the hockey stick. In order to address the problem they're faced with while being under attack, they've had to defend themselves, and they can't do hand-to-hand combat, Berger said. They had to use chemical munitions, and they don't use those unless they have to. And the reason why they had to do it is because the lunatic Democrats that are running the state would not enforce the state laws because they hate Donald Trump. It's not because of police brutality. It's because they hate Donald Trump. It's because of BLM, not because of police brutality. Oops, wrong slide. So this is Real Simple News is an open source news organization. You can find us on GitHub at github.com/Real Simple News, where you just have to click on the Real Simple News repository, click on the issues, click on the closed issues, and you can find the issue ticket for this show. It's issue pound 33 or number 33. U.S. Marshals attacked by Portland rioters. Seattle moves to abolish police and murders skyrockets. And here you can fact check my articles. We have them enumerated 1 through 30, so it's going to be a long show. Might have to make 2 cups of coffee here. But it is a lot of fun. Even though I live in Eugene, Oregon, I helped start the 2016 Portland anti-Trump protest. I used to throw a lot of huge raves, so a lot of people know me. I'm used to be a very popular person with the lefties until I was de-radicalized by the walk away and red pill movement that showed me the ways, taught me that the conservatives were not racist and evil, and that they actually had a very good point, and they were very entertaining and nice people, and everyone seems to want to attack them, and it's because of the Southern Poverty Law Center. And so if you don't believe me, you can go on GitHub on issue ticket number 33 in the Real Simple News GitHub repository, and you can challenge me here in the comments section. You can also find us at realsimplenews.net/issue 33 for this show. And that will also link you to GitHub. So let's see what these people are doing. In this next story from the New York Post, Trump-loving grandma outs Portland bomber to feds, and it's her own grandson. This woman is a patriot. It really does take a backbone to turn your own family in for that, because most lefties would totally cover it up. There's no question in anybody's mind that they would cover this up. Shortly after midnight on Tuesday morning, videos captured the moment a makeshift bomb was thrown at Portland Federal Courthouse during another night of violent protest. A Trump-loving 69-year-old woman soon stepped forward to out the suspect publicly as her grandson. Let's look at the video of this. What did this guy do? Here's a video from the U.S. Attorney of Oregon. Portland man's been charged with arson after throwing a large explosive device at Hatfield Federal Courthouse during protest on July 28th. So these are the quote-unquote peaceful protests that they're talking about, where they're throwing explosives at federal officers, because that is just so peaceful, and that's so within your First Amendment, right? Yeah, because the Second Amendment says you have a right to bear arms because a well-trained militia is the necessity of the free state. And the free state is the state where they don't throw bombs at our own officers. But they're brainwashed to think these people are fascist. Reading on the article, it says, Carla Fox says she recognized the alleged bomber as her daughter's son, 18-year-old Gabrielle Rico Agbard Berryhill. In this house, in the hours after the IED attack, social media users analyzed video showing a slime male wearing a distinctive olive vest. Slim male, but he is a slimy male. I will give him that qualifier there. He was showing a slim male wearing a distinctive olive vest with the words ICONS in capital letters printed on it, throwing something over the fence at the Mark O. Hatfield Courthouse. Seconds later, a large explosion erupts, covering the front door in flames. The man picks up something off the ground and sprints off camera. Police said the concussion could be heard and felt for more than a block away. Fox instantly identified her grandson because she gave him the vest. I bought the vest for him after he found one online after getting hit with rubber bullets the night before the protest, Fox told the Post. She even left a positive review on the clothing site Hibbett. Quote, I got this for my grandson who was a protester downtown. He used it every night and says it does the job. She posted a photo of him posing in the $26 non-bulletproof apparel because it's all a photo op for these people. Aggard Berryhill seems to confess the misguided involvement in the incident in text messages to the Post on Thursday, although it did not confirm he was the bomber. Quote, the device I've accused of allegedly throwing was allegedly given to me by an unknown protester with face covering. He wrote, I was allegedly told that it was a strobe firework that wouldn't damage the building or harm anyone around it. Okay. He added, quote, law enforcement has not contacted me for any alleged crime as of now. Here, let me I got to do one real quick thing because this video is not public. So if I don't do that, we won't get many people. I have to go make this public. All right. It's public. Late that night, Aggard Berryhill told his probation officer he wanted to turn himself... He's on probation? Yeah, these guys obviously are criminals. They're absolute criminals. He was arrested by U.S. Marshals and booked into Loma County Detention Center, according to the affidavit by Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms and Explosive Agents. He was charged with felony arson and faces a minimum of 5 years in prison. If convicted, he was released without bail. So I know these lunatic lefties think that Trump is a Nazi, that he's come here to instill fascism in the United States, but this is lunatic. There's no truth to it. Donald Trump was never known as a racist before he was elected. He never mocked a disabled reporter. That incident on TV where the fake news media industrial complex said he mocked a disabled reporter, as it turns out, some guy a long time ago acted like that when he ripped Trump off for a bunch of money. And so he's been doing that imitation for some number of years. I think it's been over a decade, but don't quote me on that. So when the ATF gets involved because they're throwing explosives at you, and there's riots all around the country, they've been going on for months over fake news, and then China gets involved, sending us atrocity propaganda through Chinese Nazi-controlled companies that are advertising on Facebook. Then you have the CIA involved. You have the FBI involved. You have the ATF involved, the U.S. Marshals. You have the Bureau of Homeland Security, NSA. Everybody's involved here at this point in time. And so when you're trying to say that the federal officers are stormtroopers because you think they're fascist, you better check yourself there, buddy, because fascists were hated capitalism. The reason why they were Nazis is because they believed in socialism, that capitalism was evil, and that people would not go along with it. The socialists are mainly in the cities. It's the same way in the United States. Most of the liberals live in the cities. Most of the red states are rural. And so they're saying that the Republicans are white supremacist, racist, who are oppressing the black people and the whammon. But as it turns out, the black people mostly live in big cities where the rent's really high, and they ended up at the bottom of the social pyramid where they stayed because they didn't try hard enough in school. And if you don't believe me, because this to some people is they think is racist because they think facts are racist. But the reality of the situation is that African Americans have very low grades. Here's the GPA of African Americans. And this does not happen to African immigrants. African immigrants are the highest paid group of immigrants in the United States. So this is obviously... Here, let me... When you say it's black people up here, we need to separate this chart over here from the African Americans and the Africans, because the Africans are doing a lot better financially, and their grades are a lot better. These people are city people. They're what are called hood Democrats. And so what you have to understand about the BLM, Antifa, Nazi, Democrat race riots are who the Democrats are composed of. They're composed mainly of people from the city, and the hierarchy that they have, they go up what is called the ivory tower, which is a metaphor for the skyscrapers and incredibly racist power structures, because the Democrats owned slaves, started the KKK, opposed women's suffrage, and passed the 1994 crime bill that created the prison industrial complex. So the ivory tower is the tower in the cities where they've been hoarding all the money that they've been extracting out of the minority groups, and where they shift that money into the white feminists.
So the people who make up the cities, when you take all the big cities, it's about an even ratio of Latinos, white people, and black people. And all of those groups of people, they all have low grades. They all have low income. Not all, everybody in the group, but in the cities, there's a social hierarchy. Like people who like got land a long time ago, and then they got in a good position, and then they moved up to the top of the hierarchy. And then the liberals, they formed a pyramid going up to the top of the ivory tower. At the bottom, you have Antifa. That's your communist street brawlers that enforce the authoritarian order with violence, along with the hood Democrats. So the hood Democrats are the people with a really high crime rate. They got astronomical crime rate, like the crime rates through the roof. African American community, it's like for every single white person that a black person kills, a black person kills 12 more white people. They commit about 25 times the amount of what are called simple assaults, and then 200 times the amounts of violent assaults. That's the really bad assaults. That's the ultra violence right there. And so the police killings, they're protesting about the police killings, but you got to look at the history of them, because whenever you start to look at the facts, they start to not really go in BLM's favor at all. You can see long time ago, back in the 60s, there were a lot of killings, and then of African Americans back when it was racist. And then this was like in the civil rights movement. They were brutalizing a lot of people during that period of time. And then they went down, and you could see, here's the start of the war on drugs right here. Click, see the dot? Yeah, right. There's the start of the war on drugs, and then it goes back up again. And the reason why it went back up again is because of the African Americans murdering people. And then you look at the homicide rates, and you can see there's about these are from the convictions alone. There's what I was saying about 12-to-1 ratio of kills. There's 6-to-1 ratio of white people to black people, and then there's about a 2-to-1 ratio of black people killing white people. So that makes a 12-to-1 ratio. Portland has hardly any police shootings. The crime rate in Portland with the African American community is about three times as high, which is lower than other cities. But they want to paint it all this one way, like it's just the white man's fault. So here's this next article from Newsweek. Says Trump says federal agents will stay in Portland, but they already left. President Donald Trump said federal agents will remain in the city of Portland, Oregon, until police deal with the anarchists and agitators in the city, even though there were peaceful protests after the agents withdrew from the demonstrations. It's okay. So if you look up Newsweek on, you search and you look at the, no, didn't want that. If you look at their NewsGuard certification, it's got all green check marks on it. So like you think these people are legit? Nah, man. They spew out fake news. I fact check these people all the time, dude. Multiple stories per day I debunk. They do not have a green check mark. This is a load of horse shit nonsense. Let's what was I was looking for. So here's a tweet from Andy No. Says Peter Wilson Curtis, a 40-year-old transvestite, was at the violent Antifa protest tonight. And this tweet was made on today. And so this was from last night. He was previously arrested and charged at a different Antifa protest. And so you can see the people who are out here aren't really quite right in the head. Here is a video of
because you stand directly against every single cop and every single Fed.
This is what they're
wanting. You are
wanting.
not here as an ally for everything that Black Lives Matter actually entails. If you are not here because you stand directly against every single cop and every single
You heard it from
Fed,
her mouth, not
then
mine.
you are not here as an ally for everything that Black Lives Matter actually entails.
This is the scariest thing about these people. You're either with me or you're against me. It's the lower class rising up for equality to take out the racist white man, the racist Republicans headed by Donald Trump. If you're not with them, you're an enemy. You're one of the fascists. You're one of the people that they want to kill. And supposedly they think in America, we kill fascists. So let me clue you in on something. If you go out and kill a fascist, you're going to jail for murder. In America, we don't kill fascists. We kill criminals to protect other people. It just so happens the fascists were engaging in criminal behavior. If you look at what the fascists supported, it's not really a horrible thing. There's a reason why they were elected, and it's because they were part of the women's suffrage movement. And if you read what they were trying to do, aside from the dictator, it wasn't horrible. That's why they were elected. The racism part, of course, that was horrible. Everything that they did with the Jews, that was, detestable. But the politics of how they came to office was part of the women's suffrage movement, and they were trying to make the world a better place. When people are electing governments, they're usually not trying to put the most brutal people in charge. It's just so happens they didn't have the internet, and women didn't know very much about politics because they weren't voting. And then whenever you start voting, then it's people, if you're not paying attention, and then everybody starts paying attention to politics, it's really easy to brainwash people. This is exactly what's going on in America. People used to not pay attention to politics until Donald Trump was elected. These radical lefties, most of them are really young. They have no idea about history. Their level of history on this subject is about that of a 5-year-old. And they are exhibiting the exact same behaviors that the Nazis were exhibiting in World War II, because they hate Trump supporters so bad, they're willing to kill them. They're willing to elect Joe Biden. They would even elect Hillary Clinton. They would even rather have Jeffrey Epstein than Donald Trump. This is fundamentally why leftists are very scary, because they think you wronged them. You took from them. They blame you for stuff that other people did, and they want to kill you. They want to kill me. In fact, they could bust the door down at any time, come in with a gun and shoot me, because I used to throw raves. A lot of people know where I live. A lot of lefties hate me right now because I don't believe everything that they say. And my narrative's the opposite of theirs. It counters theirs. My narrative is that of preaching against hate in any form. My belief is that it is your right to be a racist. Even though I do not support racism, I do not condone it, because it's free speech. If you don't like somebody else, if you live in the hood and you've seen African Americans robbing and murdering people, and you don't like African Americans for that reason, I'm not going to dislike you for that. I don't dislike anyone. I've almost been murdered by black people twice. My sister also too, another time in home invasion robberies and a hostage situation between a serial killer and a pregnant woman holding guns at an AK-47 and a pistol at each other, high on drugs. And then I'm the innocent white boy. There, it lasted 3 hours. So I've experienced the violence from the African American community. And this is why I think this way, because I know that these black people, these African Americans, are killing 9,000 other black people per year, just about. To put that into perspective, the KKK killed 3,500 people in its entire existence. This means that when you look at the murder rate beyond what would be what if the murder rates were the same between the two communities, then they would kill twice as many people as the KKK per year. That's insane. And they're out rioting. For every single African American that's killed by a cop, there's 222 other people killed by, there's 222 other people killed. There's also 85 Americans killed for every person killed by a cop. You might not think they do a perfect job, but I implore you, why don't you become a police officer? Why don't you try to do a better job? Why don't you try to make that split-second decision where somebody else has a gun? For instance, recently a man came to the door of his house. Cops came, and so they got a noise complaint, and he came to the door with a gun because the cops came, and then the cop shot him. You got to make a split-second decision. Is this guy going to shoot me? He came to the door with a gun. What does that mean? Would you pull the trigger? Would you let him shoot you? Here's what the U.S. Attorney for Oregon has to say.
About Black Lives Matter, right? You feel like the late night demonstrations are taking away from the fight for racial justice.
These aren't late night demonstrations. This is criminal activity. Okay. There's a difference.
Okay.
What you have failed in the media have failed to distinguish between. You seem unwilling to call people engaged in criminal conduct as criminals, as opposed to lawful protesting.
Well, some may argue that the way the federal agents are acting is criminal too, and we're not saying that.
Argue away on.
Sorry, I have to repeat this because
shadowing the overall.
Wait, did the audio come back on? I don't know what happened to the audio at the beginning of that.
There needs to be a distinction made between lawful, constitutionally protected protest and this. This is unlawful.
Okay, so
and people, whether you're an opportunist, an antagonist, an agitator, or an anarchist, call it out for what it is.
So you're saying the late night activity that is criminal.
What I'm telling you is you seem to refuse to call something late night activity. This is criminal.
I just said the late night activity that you say is criminal, right?
What I'm saying is, why can't you call it out as such?
Yes, you won't. You absolutely won't call it out as
You're
criminal.
using late night activity. It sounds like a party. It's criminal. Look at the three.
Yeah, that's criminal elements. No doubt that's criminal elements. Here's another tweet from Andy No. This table is giving out free riot gear outside of the Portland Federal Courthouse.
From all over the country.
Sorry.
That's crazy. These are all donated?
Yeah. From all over the country too. We play roller derby, and so we put out to our neighbors.
Roller derby girls,
The season's canceled, so people are just starting with their gear, which is really cool.
Well, I'll have my food on.
Yeah.
Probably fun. Here's another tweet from @StillGray. This is the type of laser pointers that they've been pointing at agents. It can blind you in an eighth of a second. It can set paper on fire. They're trying to injure these police officers permanently. That's their goal when they shine these lasers at them, is to inflict as much damage as they can to the fascist. Oh, guess.
Already burning it. dark paper,
Ooh.
and it can do this up to a quarter-mile away. Burn a hole right through the
They're
paper.
blinding me through the TV.
Instructions say
About-
if it even touches your eyeball for an eighth of a second, you can go blind. They are using these on our police. What they're using.
Yeah, that's not okay. Here's another tweet from Andy No. It says some people are open carrying weapons at the Portland BLM Antifa Nazi riots outside of the federal courthouse. This person brought swords to intimidate the crowd and police officers and Trump supporters. Last 2 days ago on Real Simple News with Kayla McCullough, I covered a story of a stabbing in Portland where a black conservative journalist was stabbed by a leftist extremist terrorist. He snuck up behind him and stabbed him in the back. In this tweet from Andy No, it shows rioters dumping trash all around the exit of the Portland courthouse. Federal officers Federal officers go out to clear the blockade. Rioters follow them and try to incite violence. Once officers go back inside, they try to kick down the garage or gate. If you donate to the show, it will pay for faster internet. So we won't have to put up with these pauses. And more reliable equipment. Now listen, he's saying F Trump. Like, dude, these cities, first off, the war on drugs started long time before Richard Nixon started the DEA. Okay? The DEA was not the start of the war on drugs. The war on drugs started in San Francisco in the 1800s when they outlawed opium because they were targeting the Chinese people. It started as Democrats being extremely racist. And Trump, the laws that they are freaking out about, throwing a little hissy fit about, are local and state laws. They are not federal laws that Donald Trump can do anything about. If you want to repeal the Controlled Substances Act, all the Republicans are down. We're 100% in support. If this is a place where we can meet together and we can improve our drug law system and make it more fair, I think that everyone is going to be on board if it stops these Democrat race riots. Because we have to clean up all the damage that's been done from all these Democrat laws. So the Republicans are, oh man, we're eager. You want to clean up the damage from the Democrats and their race wars. We're 100% on board with you. Here's from this next tweet from Andy No. It shows leftist extremists burning an American flag downtown Portland. If you'll notice, I would rather make the flag beautiful and make it honored and respected. In this next tweet from Andy No, rioters are gathering in Portland, tearing off barricades in an arcade nearby federal courthouse. Portland police are aware, but will let them continue because they've been given directive to leave rioters alone in most circumstances. And that's because Ted Wheeler, the little skis bag ivory tower liberal that the BLM people have been talking shit about since the beginning, I helped start the 2016 Portland anti-Trump protest back when I was a brainwashed liberal. And I very vividly remember Don't Shoot Portland talking hella shit about Ted Wheeler because Ted Wheeler was the demon that was shutting us down. He was the fascist. So Ted Wheeler is attempting to placate to these leftist extremists who are murdering police officers, burning down our public property that we paid for, killing and hurting police officers, attempting to blind them, blow them up with explosives because they think that they're fascist. Leftists, the Antifa, the people that used to street brawl with the Nazis and then joined the Nazis because over 50% of Nazis were actually Antifa. Yes, it's true. It's 100% true. Over 50% of Nazis were Antifa. There's this article. I like to go over it a lot, so I'm not going to go into detail on it. It's from the War History Online, place for military history and news and views. It says how communists in Germany allied with Nazis to destroy democracy. And the long story short, when in 1920, when the women got their voting rights. Woo! So right when these women got their voting rights, they went completely batshit crazy, went crazy far left, started brawling up with the fascists up in the street, and then they joined sides because they had a mutual enemy that they wanted to kill, and they overthrew the government and instilled authoritarianism, just like the leftist scum extremists are doing right now. While they're murdering police officers, U.S. citizens, business owners, terrorizing individuals in their homes, trespassing on private property, requiring people to bring weapons out. They're pointing weapons. They're coming back for them with weapons to terrorize them. And trust me, they've came for me. They're coming for you next. Don't think they're not going to come for you. That would be absolutely foolish to think. In this next tweet from Andy No, rioters try to aim a rocket at the Portland Federal Courthouse, but it misfires on him and it burns his hand. I'm not sure if we lost the audio. Having audio issues. I can't hear it. And so I don't know if the audio's on. This next tweet from Andy No, rioters started a large fire in downtown Portland at the quote-unquote peaceful protest. Oh yeah, when were these tweets? I picked all tweets from today. Just, you can go see the links on issue ticket 33 on the Real Simple News GitHub repository. Find it at realsimplenews.net/issue 33. In this next tweet from Andy No, rioters start another fire in the street.
Black lives matter! Black lives matter! Black lives matter! Black lives matter! Black matter!
I think I know what happened to my audio.
Black lives matter! Black lives.
In this next tweet from Andy No, Black Bloc militants in downtown Portland are trying to break into a business near the federal courthouse as the quote-unquote peaceful protest known as the BLM Antifa Nazi race riots. My audio is obviously back on now. Yeah, these guys are really good at jacking shit. They're like anarchist street kids, dude. They'll shank you. Better watch your back around Antifa, dude. They might stab you, rob you, shine a laser pointer in your eye. In this next tweet from Andy No, Antifa rioters tried to provoke a federal response from retreating federal. Did we already watch this? This is a different video. This is we watched this scene, but I think this is a different video of the scene. Can't remember if it was the same one. My audio went out again. So, here's an example of Marxist graffiti. So, if you're unaware with the dangers of Marxism, Karl Marx was a rabid white supremacist who advocated for genocide. He was the person who came up with Marxism. He was not a good person. He was a very bad person. He's the reason why the Nazis hated the Jews so much. It's because he was a real big scumbag. Big-time white supremacist. All the Jews were white supremacists back then. The Americans were the white supremacists. The English were on the other side of the Nazis. As it turns out, the Germans did not own slaves. The Germans were actually anti-racist. It's so creepy. It's about a 10 out of 10 on the creepy scale. Because what the Nazis hated capitalism. That's why they joined with Antifa. It's because they both thought that capitalism was immoral and that they had to get rid of it at all cost. It was the punks from the city that wanted the socialism because they're just batshit crazy lunatics. And when you're in the city and you're around a bunch of people, they'll control the way you think. And you got fake news flying all around because people are in contact with each other more. People think people are smarter in the cities, and it's these ignorant, dumb people in the country that are causing all the problems. But in reality, that's not true. The red states are the rural states, the ones that are more poor. So if it's white supremacy that's keeping you down and the Republicans are racist, then why don't you explain how it's the Democrats in the city who won't hire the black people? Because liberals mainly live in the cities, right? That doesn't go along with the narrative that these people are preaching. The narrative of hate. They've become a hate group because they use hatred, violence, and intimidation against police officers, Trump supporters, and people who they think wronged black people, racist people, xenophobes, and they've lumped them all into the far right. Far right used to mean, on the far left, you had the flattest hierarchy, communism. On the farthest right, you had the steepest hierarchy, which was Nazism. And then in the middle, you had what was supposed to be either capitalism, but in reality to them, they thought it was the socialist utopia because it couldn't be that capitalism was the in-between that was the best way. To them, they thought in-between was in between the left and the right. That's why the communists joined up with the Nazis to create their quote-unquote socialist utopia. And so this graffiti contains a hate symbol known as ACAB, or all cops are bastards, which are not. They're wonderful people. Most of them, vast majority of them, absolutely wonderful people. Good women. They take care of people. This is something that you don't get from socialists because they don't reciprocate. They just want to take from you, and they do not want to give back because they have not produced anything to share with you. In this next tweet from Ben Crump, Attorney Crump, shows a lunatic white feminist.
And I work full time, and I have to come and spend my nights with you because I can't stand
Just yelling at the courthouse.
Black Lives Matter! Black Lives Matter! That's why we're here. We're not here because
Damn!
we don't care about the bill. We don't care about your stupid fence. We care.
She's
about because George called out for his mama. You all have moms. Your mom loves you. George's mom loved him, and my kids love me.
She's
and I
like
wanna
crying.
go
This
home
woman's
to
a
them.
lunatic.
But they agree that this is important. And it's not about some white ladies. It's not about me. It's about Black Lives Matter. There's so many amazing black women who have been doing this fight for years, and I showed up late.
This is about Donald Trump. This is about hatred of Republicans.
I'm so tardy to this party, but I'm making up for it because I'm so angry. So angry. And
That's why she's there. She's there because she's angry. She's angry about oppression that doesn't happen to her because she's a white feminist. She's mainly concerned about upset. She's so upset because she's out there fighting for equality because she thinks she's underpaid. That's why they're out there. They're not out there because they're experiencing police brutality. Because let's be real, this woman has never experienced police brutality. She is a privileged white woman by all stretches of the imagination.
black people are allowed to be angry, and who cares if someone...
Oh, the angry black man and the angry black women. Oh, I know you allowed to be angry. But if I'm angry, people think I'm a fucking lunatic. They also, too, think that you're an angry lunatic when you act angry.
Somebody graffitis on this stupid building. We're talking about human life.
Woo! So here in this next tweet, here violence breaks out at a BLM Antifa Nazi street riot in Springfield, Oregon, which is right near where I live. 2 people were resisting arrest or dragged from the mob. Portland-inspired protests and riots have spread to small cities and states. And these people have been threatening me. They think I'm far right because I don't go side with the leftists, nor will I ever. None of these people have ever experienced police brutality. Never. I know for a fact raves are pretty popular here. A lot of people have probably sold a bunch of drugs at raves, and so they claim I've been oppressed because I sold drugs at rave parties that were totally fucking awesome. It's like, give me a fucking break, dude. Those parties, I threw one that had over 2,000 people in 4 stages. It was badass. Space Invaders 2. In fact, you can even see the art from Space Invaders 2 here on the thumbnail. We have the from Space Invaders 2 from my rave that had over 2,000 people there that I excellently pulled off without a hitch. I even made money this time. Didn't blow it all on drugs. But they're getting all hopped up on this fake news. Like, here's something I found around, floating around here on the internet. What you got to understand, dude, these BLM Antifa Nazis are little skis bag liars. Everything's fake news to these people, dude. So you can see in this picture, they took some images and photoshopped them together. They had to make sure they stuck a red line around it, because if you didn't stick the red line around it, you would be able to much easily detect it. But you have a problem here with this whole thing, is that we have this area over here, if you can see on my mouse, this area here where it's dark. All right. This means that the light that's shining in this area over here is not the same orientation and gradient as the light that's over here. It's how you spot fake images. So what this is, it's an image of them someone spraying a black girl with water. And as you can see here in the background, there's they're pointing, but they're not pointing at the cop. They're looking at somewhere else in the image. That's another key. You could also see that the mother is not, if your child is getting sprayed with mace, you would probably be covering up your child. You would probably be looking at your child, correct? No, they're not doing that. And that's because BLM are a lying bag of shit. You can't trust anything that comes out of their fucking mouth because they've been brainwashed. In this next story from the New York Post, Boston man was charged with firing 11 shots at cops during looting. A Boston man accused of opening fire on police during weekend widespread of looting and vandalism in the city he's now facing federal charges, prosecutors said. John Boempong, 37, was charged Thursday with assaulting a federal officer, interfering with a law enforcement officer during the commission of a civil disorder, and being a prohibited person under a felony. So what was up with this dude? Felony indictment in possession of a firearm. So he was not allowed to have a gun, and then he had a gun, and then he went and he fired 11 shots at this man, and he should thank his lucky stars that he is still alive. And this was on June 1st. U.S. Attorney Liu Ling announced Boempong, who was charged on June 3rd with Suffolk County with 21 counts of armed assault and intent to murder, was legally barred from having a gun, but indiscriminately fired 11 shots at a crowd of officers and civilians during the incident. And you can see over here in this next story from the Sun-Times, Chicago sees a 139% jump in murders, uptick in shootings since July 2020, since the fentanyl overdose of George Floyd in the ambulance after the EMT checked his pulse to make sure he was alive. Murders and shootings reported last month in Chicago increased drastically from July 2019, but overall crime in the city decreased, according to the data released by Chicago police. So they're just, don't worry, they're not robbing you as much. And note, let's see, do we have that up here? Most Chicago, here, this story from Fox News says most Chicago homicide victims over the past decade are black. Police data shows. What was the percent? Do we have a percent? Got to cover this stuff faster. So, oops. 71%. Shootings increased 71% in May. Murders 60%. And so when this is over the year as a whole. So when you actually look at the past several months, it's crazy high. I can't tell you exactly how high it is, but in Chicago, last year there was 44 reported homicides in July 2019, while the 406 shooting incidences are 75% increase from the 232 last July, according to figures. So what was the 44 reported last year? Well, there was 103. So that's over twice the amount of shootings. When they say 138% increase, that means it's more than double. This next article from ABC News. That wasn't the right one. This next article from New York Post. Murder is rising, but New York doesn't seem to care. There's nothing going on out there on the streets. No, that's not. I hate it when they start news articles like that. Never start a news article with a monologue that puts your user in a state of mind. That's called brainwashing. You're supposed to display the facts, the bottom line up front. And if you have a story, you can feel free to walk me through it after that. I'm going to read about maybe 2 or 3 paragraphs. If you don't put that shit in it, you suck at your job. So New York's killings at the peak in 1990, they killed 2,262 people that year, mostly black people killing people. And so in 2017, there was 292 murders in New York. And so the murders have gone down. So the murder spike, what was the percent? So shooting victims, including wounded, are up 45%. And then 11%. For the years, murders up 25%. Here's the 2020. See, man, you got to put the bottom line up front, man. For real. First off, it's easy to confuse that, mix up facts. Easy to mix up facts. I had to search for it. I had to look at a couple of different percents. This article is about 2020. You need to put the bottom line up front. This person, Nicole Gelianis, sucks at her job. Someone should write her and tell her that her journalism is pathetic and she needs to put the bottom line up front. I'm going to move on because this article sucks. It was horribly written. Next article from Urban Milwaukee. Milwaukee's homicide rate has doubled. And that's not where George Floyd died of a fentanyl overdose when he had a heart attack in the ambulance. Milwaukee was, let's see, there was some other stuff that Milwaukee was in the news for. What does the chart say? So here's the, I remember it was on here. Where's Milwaukee at on the chart? So here's a chart of the police killings. I made this chart. I went through and I found the killing. Okay, so when you look at police homicides, you have to look at the police homicides per 100,000. Because hood Democrats and white feminists are usually pretty pathetic at math, they have no clue how to read or make a graph. They just go off of the raw murder numbers or homicide numbers, police homicides, and they don't look too far into it. This is why they're brainwashed and out there rioting and looting over fake news, because they never checked their facts. So when you look at the list, where is it? Minneapolis over here. Is it on the list? So it's somewhere in the middle, huh? I thought it was on this list. So Minneapolis is pretty low. We'll look at this list again here in a second. Let's go back to the other crazy stuff. Here's from the Philadelphia Tribune. As homicides surge, Philadelphia to roll out long-awaited anti-violence strategy. This is from July 28th of 2020. And they had a 31 homicides are up 31% over last year. That was 243 total. And so the 31% of that, let's look at the total of that. Because when you start looking at these totals, it looks like the Black Lives Matter people, because everybody thinks that Black Lives Matter is black people. So that was 243. So if Black Lives Matter is black people, then they are responsible for the murders from the black people. And so that would be an extra 75 murders just in Philadelphia. And so when you start to look at all of the murders put together, BLM members are killing thousands of Americans right now. I mean, they've been killing people. These African Americans up in the hood, they're gangsters. There's not all the African Americans. All the conservative African Americans. I ain't with that person, dude. Don't put me in there. I ain't put you in there. No, it's these gangbangers, dude. They've almost murdered me, man. I know who we're talking about. I'm not talking about anybody else other than the gangbangers that are murdering people, dude. They're Black Lives Matter people, dude. They are hardcore Black Lives Matter people murdering black people. There's another Philly one. Here's one from Atlanta. This is July 7th. Atlanta mayor says increase in shooting stems from a perfect storm of distress. Long story short, there's a increase of murders and shooting incidences so far are up 19%. And then murders jump from 6 to 14 shooting. That's just from 28 day. So that's over doubled on murders on that month. So that's more than doubled on in their murder rate. But when the murder rates are that low, this is what people don't understand about police homicides. When you look at these statistics, there's going to be so many of these incidences per city. So when you look at these statistics, it's like, okay, so it went from 6 to 14, right? That's not a whole lot of people in that area. Statistically speaking, one or two incidences can make that number go up quite a bit. But so with the police brutality or homicides, it's the same way. So they add up, there's 320 million people. We looked at this homicide chart here that showed the homicide rates when you put it in per millions of people. And this is the homicide rate that you can expect to have in the future, given the fact that we have so many guns. This is not okay. So the black people up here, the African Americans, don't put the Africans in there. They're like, I ain't with them, homie. I'm from Nigeria, bro. We don't do that shit there. I'm with you on that one, bro. It's these hood Democrats, people up into big cities. They got low income, low GPAs, high drug abuse rates, high crime rates, high murder rates, high rates of blaming people for stuff that other people did, just like Nazis. In this next article, Indianapolis from Fox 58, Indianapolis record-breaking murder rates sparks call for action and change, updated July 10th, 2020. Community and faith leaders said enough is enough following another homicide in Indy's east side, with the city continuing on record for pace of murders. A new plan for action will be unveiled in the next 2 days. This weekend, community and faith leaders are going to get together in the Old Valley City parking lot, 38th and Arlington. Where's the percent? I had a percent in here, right? Maybe I didn't have a percent. Okay, that's it for that story. Next story from Nevada Appeal. Nevada's crime rate up nearly 9%. It also said the report said 18% of the crimes committed last year were solved, down 7.5%. So it went down and then it went back up. In this next article, is that it? Is that the end of the... Okay, so we got the Boston dude. I lost the Guardian article. Trump's not leaving. So here in this article from NBC News entitled, Why Some Police Officers Believe Crime is on the Rise in U.S. Cities. The anti-police rhetoric has destroyed morale, an NYPD chief says. The Police Executive Research Forum surveyed 4 cities across the country and found that crime rates in Indianapolis, Milwaukee, New York, and Las Vegas has spiked since the start of the COVID pandemic and reopening the country. And as you will notice, Real Simple News was more detailed than ABC News. I brought you more statistics. It was a more accurate picture. I even included their data in it. A fact that law enforcement leaders feared. Quote, jurisdictions release many offenders in order to reduce the spread of COVID-19 in jails. That whole thing is stupid. Stupid. Young people are not at risk of dying from COVID. Here's the COVID death graphs from the United States. This was last updated when? Last updated June 17th, so it's a couple of weeks out of date, but the statistics are going to be the same because we have a sample size of 1,000, so the chance it's going to deviate by very, very little at that point in time. And so when you add up these numbers, you can take a calculator and you can count up the deaths. You can start at 8 plus 5 plus 13 plus 125 plus 699. It's 850 people died plus 1780. So there was 2,630 people as of 2 weeks ago that died from COVID. Okay, so like if that was all the people that died, like nobody would be worried about that at all. That's how many people die from lupus, right? How many people die from autoimmune disorders when their body attacks its own organs and kills you? This is something that happened. You can get cut. You can get cut and you can die from going into sepsis from your body attacking itself in an autoimmune disorder. It can happen. So let's look at the death totals. So this is all the people under the age of 45. I am 38 years old, so I fall into that category. We had a total deaths at this time period of 103,000. So that's a very large sample size. Okay. So let's divide this by 103,339. And what you're going to see is that you end up with 2.55% of the cases were under the age of 45. To put that into perspective, when you divide 1 by that number, when you divide 100, because I multiplied it, what you're going to see is that number is 39 times larger than the other number. Right? Oh, wait, no, you got to do 100 minus that, okay? And then you divide that number by the percent. It's 38 point, still the same number. So it's 38 times larger. So the risk of getting COVID, of dying from COVID, is currently about 10 times greater than your risk of getting murdered. But it's 38 times your chance of dying of COVID is 38 times less than if you were over the age of 45. And the people who did die either had an autoimmune response or they had diabetes or some other condition that made them susceptible to any sort of disease. It's not like some of these diseases out there are very nasty and they will take out the most healthy people. So COVID definitely not taking out the healthy people. COVID taking out people that it's just nature. I mean, we can slow the spread of COVID by not wearing masks, because when you wear a mask, it's very similar to if you're in your home. Most people get COVID in a house, and they do it when they go meet with people. The only way to stop the spread of COVID is to stop going to other people's houses, in which case we are going to have a birth rate dip. And we've already had a very bad birth rate dip. Replacements 2.1 births per women. The American citizens, most of them that are second, third, fourth generation Americans, are about 1.6 birth rate. Asians are about single child. So we want to dip our birth rate anymore. Do the Asians want to have a birth rate dip? You're an only child. So currently, in order to continue having Asians in this country, because Asian women are so beautiful and we need more Asian women, and they're so smart and awesome too, I may add, and I am single, yes. In order to keep that population going, you have to bring in Asians from outside of the country. So yeah, you're like keeping the Asians here, but it's not like the Americans. Like, yeah, you keep packing in more Asians, but they're not your genes getting propagated through the gene pool. They're Asians. They're like from Asia. They're not Americans. It's not you, dude. So which ones of you wants to make your family shrink? Does anybody want to volunteer? Do you want to give up your children so that your family shrinks? I'm pretty sure that you don't. But Democrats don't care. It's all a brainwashing scheme. See, when you wear a mask, it's just like as if you were around your house and you breathe COVID out all over the place. You're talking with people, and then there's stuff going around, and it starts the virus particles start to settle on your mask because you didn't. When the N95 mask works because you changed the mask. And if everybody is wearing N95 masks and they're like changing the mask all the time, we like pollute the hell out of the planet. And if we wear the mask, it makes it so that we, like Finland COVID death count. I did this the other day on the show. Apologize for the repeat. Here's Finland's death count. It's currently at 329. They have 5.2 million people. United States has 320 million people. That was 329, right? So 320 divided by 5.2. The United States is 61.5 times the size. So if you multiply 329 by that number, what you end up with is a number that is 20,000. If Finland was the size of the United States, they would have had 20,000 COVID deaths by now. Finland does not wear masks. So now that I've done this story out of order, here we have to cover the other story that's related to this. So forgive me. That was not my intention to cover that out of order, but sometimes that happens on this show. In this next article from the Daily Mail, the land with no face mask, Holland's top scientist says there's no solid evidence for that face coverings work. While 120 countries in the world, including much of Europe, have ordered citizens to wear masks in public places to prevent spread of COVID-19, the Dutch are going to do things differently. And they start with some boring blah, blah, blah monologue. I'm not even going to give them breath because I hate it when journalists start out with, as I walked around, as I did something, there's this thing, don't put me in the headspace that you're in, bro. That's called fake news. That's how you brainwash. That's how you get people to agree with something that is not true, is you make a story and you walk them through the story. And I want you to put the bottom lines up front with no fake news or anything. But actually, Daily Mail, this one doesn't have it. You know, Daily Mail, most of their articles have a summary, bullet points up at the top. They do put the bottom line up front. They did not in this article. I'm not going to give them too much breath. You can go and look at it. In this picture, the caption says, while 120 countries in the world ordered citizens to wear masks in public places to prevent the spread of COVID-19, the Dutch is, I already read that. I'm so sorry that I just read that twice. This next caption says, Holland's top scientists, having examined key data and research, have declared there's no firm evidence to back the use of face coverings. Pictured in day trippers and tourists walk around Amsterdam on July 25th. And I'm sorry, I didn't bookmark the source. But the CDC has been well aware that if you wear a cloth face mask, it increases your chance of getting the flu. The reason for that, the flu particles land on the mask. They start to build up over time, and then you inhale the virus off of the mask, which is the same problem with your house and where most people get COVID and where you're not going to go walk around your house wearing a mask. You're just not going to go talk to anyone else. And at which point in time, you've just completely destroyed your life. So what the fuck is the point of living at that point in time? Right? I'm 38. Most of the women can't have kids. You want to put off having a baby another 2 or 3 years, bro? We can't have a baby anymore. My genes are gone. I'm dead. I'm a beta male now. Thanks. Now I got to fuck younger chicks. And it's not going to be you, woman. In this next article from the Daily Mail, Muslims sacrifice animals to celebrate Eid al-Adha during a sacred-backed festivities. Eid al-Adha commemorates Muslims' belief that Abraham was willing to sacrifice his son as an act of obedience to God before God replaces his son with a ram to be sacrificed instead. And so what they've done instead of ritual human sacrifice, because they're not quite crazy enough to kill their children in public in a mass ceremony like that, they're going to do ritual animal sacrifice instead to appease the god Allah. Praise Allah. Did you know that Mohammed had a wife who was 7 years old? Mohammed, their prophet. Uh-oh. Did I lose my mouse? Hold on. Oh, there it's my mouse. It's the Bluetooth, dude. I hate how they do that. Okay, so here is Muhammad. And so we want, sorry. Okay, apparently this one's run by lefties. So if you look up Muhammad's, yeah, here it is. So this is about the Prophet Muhammad's wife, and there was Aisha. Aisha was like 9 years old. So that's called pedophilia. This girl, Aisha, she was the daughter of Muhammad's close friend, Abu Bakr. She was initially betrothed by Jubakar Ain Mutim, a Muslim whose father, Page, was... Okay, so he was 44 at the time, and she was not... Okay, so the numbers vary. She was between 7... No, they say, oh, no, she was 11. So they argue about it. They're like, oh, no, it was okay. She was 9. And these are the people sacrificing animals that you're not allowed to criticize. This next article from Newsweek, supporters urge Joe Biden not to debate Donald Trump. Applaud host for canceling over COVID-19 concerns. Democratic strategists are urging Joe Biden to not debate Trump in the lead up to Election Day, citing Trump's publicity stunts and disregarding the rules for the election. So what are they talking about with this disregarding the rules of the election? They said that Donald Trump wanted to delay the election. Right, so what are they talking about? This was, let's find the tweet so we can show you how foolish it is for the liberals to say what they did. They said, Trump said with universal mail-in, not absentee voting, which is good, 2020 will be most inaccurate and fraudulent election in history. It will be a great embarrassment to the USA. Delay the election until people can properly secure and safely vote. And so this is where the fake news media industrial complex claimed that Donald Trump is trying to delay the election. This is false. This is nonsensical. They said, he said delay. He posed the question, do we need to delay the election because they're trying to do a mail-in ballot fraud? And if you're unaware with the way our election systems work, if you change the rules of the election right before the election and there's not enough time, you can take them to court and you can get a court order, a legally binding court order that you can get right now without Donald Trump, without anything related to what the crazy lefties are saying. The right is like fascist. It's totally, absolutely false. They think far right is the same thing as left is conservative, or left is liberal and then right is conservative. Those two things aren't the same thing as the socialist left-right scale. So they're saying Donald Trump is a fascist, being a fascist. No, actually, in the United States, you can have the election delayed. You can get a court order to delay the election. You can actually do it. So when Donald Trump posed this question, do we need to delay the election? It's a legitimate question. Because in this New Jersey election, this WAPO. Sorry, I covered this on the last show, but I'm going to cite it. This article from Real Clear Politics: 1 in 5 ballots rejected as fraud is charged in New Jersey mail-in election. Up to 40% of the ballots in some precincts were found to be fraudulent. And it's because people with Trump derangement syndrome are breaking the law. They've normalized murder, rioting, looting, stealing. So election fraud is nowhere near as violent as the other things. Why wouldn't they go with that one? That one's less violent. I mean, if they would kill Trump supporters to get their way, why don't you think that they would go with the less violent thing? Right? This next article from the Times of Israel: in largest protest yet, over 10,000 rally against Benjamin Netanyahu in Jerusalem. Demonstrators flood Paris Square and much of the city center as thousands gather at various junctions throughout the city, calling from the premier to resign. And I'm in support of that. I don't really support Netanyahu. I think he's always been a bad apple, kind of an instigator. I think he came from a generation of people that, like, their time's over and done at this point in time. What the hell are they doing re-electing Netanyahu? I mean, for real, man. I mean, I completely support Israel. I'm not mad at them for what they're doing to the Palestinians. I don't live there. I don't pay taxes there. I don't know enough about it. The only thing I know is all the Israelis that I've met were really cool people, and they are a bastion of sanity over there. They're not radical Islamic terrorists. In fact, they're the opposite of that. They're very like Americans, and people hate them and want to kill them and wipe them off the planet. And I support them, and I will also fight to protect them too, because I also believe that anti-Semitism is incredibly evil, that blaming people for stuff that other people did turns you into a psycho, killing, genocidal maniac. Maybe you shouldn't do that. In this next article from the New York Post: ByteDance offers to sell TikTok operations as ban looms. The social network controlled by ByteDance is enormously popular in the United States with more than 80 million active users. It wasn't the article that I was... Here, I'm sorry, I read you the wrong article. In this next... Okay, so wait. I don't have the... Okay, I screwed up. This has been updated. This was from 2:20 a.m. It's out of date. Microsoft is not in the bidding. In this next article from Business Insider, Microsoft reportedly paused its talks with ByteDance to buy TikTok's U.S. operations after Trump said it wouldn't support a deal. Microsoft paused the negotiations, or this was reported by the Wall Street Journal. The newspaper reported that Microsoft had been in advanced talks with ByteDance, but they were stalled when the president told reporters Friday evening that he wanted to flat ban the Chinese-owned app and not a sale. So why, I thought about this one probably about half of today, and I've come to the conclusion that it is a national security concern. You might sell the software to Microsoft, but we don't have any sort of guarantees that there are no China viruses in there. Computer viruses, not the CCP virus. Different thing. Yeah, the CCP virus is like different. It is a social network. It is something that American citizens have time and money invested in. So we have some balancing acts here. You do, in my opinion, have a right to your social network. I don't think that Facebook owns your social network. I think you should own your social network. In fact, I'm creating my own social network. If you want to help me out, I got a startup. I need people to help me out. I have a badass social network with IMU language memory augmentation technologies that are ability assistance technologies, can help you improve your mood, productivity, help you with PTSD, depression, anxiety, and it can help you learn. I'm not sure if I said that. I think I said that. So, I personally, as a business owner, was like, all right, well, they took that social network out, but I mean, there's just going to be another one that takes its place. The network has been brainwashed. This TikTok app is bad news. They've been run by the Chinese Nazi Party. They've been putting out all kinds of pro-socialism propaganda. They've been removing content critical of the dictator Winnie the Pooh, a.k.a. Xi Jinping, the overweight dictator that kind of looks embarrassingly not fit for the job. I'm not sure exactly why they picked him. I think it's because his family was the next in line. Because in reality, I mean, he has some book about his version of Marxism, right? But like, it's just National Socialism, dude. If you look at the structure of Xi Jinping's dictatorship over there in China, Winnie the Pooh has set up a Nazi structure because they have hundreds of millions of impoverished Chinese. They have ultra-rich Asians. They have millions of Uyghur Muslims in communist re-education camps. And these things are crazy. Do we have any... do we have anything from the Uyghur Muslims? Do we have... Dude, I saw a video earlier of these. This stuff's like off the chain lunatic, dude. These re-education camps are crazy. Looking for news. Sorry, I'm looking for this thing. I saw it. I had it. It was in the news. But we don't have it. I don't have it. Can we find anything? Okay, I can't pull it out. I just can't pull anything out on the spot. Go look up the videos of inside the Uyghur Muslim re-education camps. These people are lunatics inside of there. The communist, the Nazis over there are doing some crazy lunatic stuff. So they got the authoritarian dictator, Winnie the Pooh. And Winnie the Pooh is trying to be the world's #1 superpower. And because of this, because of them, the structure that they've set up where they have Hong Kong has a different set of rules. They are allowed private property ownership in Hong Kong. You can have businesses in China. When you're in China, if you want to do business in China, the government doesn't fully own your business. But exactly just like National Socialism. If they want to take your business, they can take your business at any point in time. This is the exact identical nature of National Socialism. National Socialism is different than communism because you can own private property, where in communism, everything is communally owned. And then it's supposed to be that the community is in control. But once communism turns into a dictatorship, such as Winnie the Pooh, dictator of China, then what? Then it becomes a Nazi structure. It's National Socialism. It's not communism at that point in time. So this is all the Winnie the Pooh can bring to you. Like, I can't even tell you anything that's unique about his version of Marxism other than the fact that it's part of cultural Marxism, which is the scourge of the planet that killed hundreds of millions of people in Asia. And it caused basically, they said Marxism failed because the social hierarchy was flat. People just bias it towards their in-group. And so you needed to have a steep social hierarchy, like the Nazism thing. People needed to compete. And then, so cultural Marxism, they said that it wasn't Marxism that failed, it was the culture. So we have to change the culture. And this is when they started mass slaughtering hundreds of millions of people and destroying the culture there. And had they not done that, the dictator Winnie the Pooh wouldn't look so much like Winnie the Pooh. He would look more like a tough, strong alpha male. Instead, he kind of looks like an out-of-shape wimp, somebody who would get his ass whooped in a fight with an American. And because of this, because I advocate that people overthrow the dictator Winnie the Pooh, rise up and bring democracy to Hong Kong and all around Asia, this means that I am now a wanted fugitive in Asia. And see, do we have the story? I don't. I know I covered one last time, but they've been cracking down. I thought I had that story. They put warrants out for arrest for a U.S. two Chinese dissidents. One was in the U.S., one was in the U.K. And they actually put out arrest warrants for these Chinese dissidents for engaging in speech on U.S. soil. And because of the speech that I just engaged in, I am now a wanted fugitive in China. If I ever go to China, I will be thrown in jail for criticizing the pudgy dictator Winnie the Pooh because he is a beta male and he's a jerk. He's a fascist. He's a Nazi. I'm going to insult him at every chance I get. If I ever find an image of him, I will probably take a shit on it, probably piss on it, probably set it on fire when I'm done if I did not take a shit on it, because who wants to breathe that shit, right? This is real fascism. When you get thrown in jail for calling somebody Winnie the Pooh, right, and making fun of how chubby his cheeks are. He kills millions of people. I'm not gonna not sit here and just trash talk Winnie the Pooh, because I'm gonna do it. But let's move on. I got to get through this. Next article from NPR. Biden wants the feds to help close racial economic gaps. How would that work? The central bank has blunt instruments that it's just, oh my God, this dude's a fucking idiot, dude. Which are not tailored to economic or different racial groups. Biden wants the Fed to more explicitly factor in Black and Hispanic outcomes. He doesn't care about Muslims or American Indians or Pacific Islanders. No, he just wants to focus on Hispanics and black people because they're a much larger voting group. The Hispanic group is like 15% of America, and then the black people are 13.3. Hispanics, that group of people was growing, but now that they've cracked down on immigration, they won't be growing because our population, if you're not aware of this, I'm going to get sidetracked here just a little bit because this is actually so important. This is a chart from census.gov that says a changing nation, population projections under alternative immigration scenarios. And it shows you that the population of the United States is 100% dependent on the immigration policy. If there's no immigration, we're going to, at 2060, we'll have 320 million people about. Or if we have low immigration policy, which is what the Republicans want, we'll have 376.2 million. High policy, which is what the Democrats want, is 446.9 million. Delta of that is 70 million people. So most of these people coming in are Latinos. We have most of them come from Spanish-speaking countries. Here's the chart of where they come from. 25% are coming from Mexico. 56% of illegal immigrants are from Mexico. About half of them, 25% are from South America. 25% from Asia, and then maybe, I can't see the exact number. It's like about 10% from Europe. So because we have neighbors, if we don't have our immigration laws, then our neighbor will like take our land and annex it. So like Mexico, 1 in 20 Mexican citizens is in the United States illegally. There's 20 illegal immigrants for every homeless person. So there's about 11 Mexicans, illegal immigrants from Mexico for every single homeless person on the street. Then we have a population explosion going on where the birth rate in Africa has been crazy high. It's been like 5 or 6 per women in some of these countries. Birth rate in Asia has been high. And so this is what the country is going to look like here in 2060. It's going to be, we're just way down here. So the population of South America is going down. So the number of people who are from Latin America in the United States is also too supposed to go down with that. Unless our immigration policy is skewed in such a way that we get this number, and the Democrats want it because it'll boost the number of U.S. House seats they have in California, Texas, and it'll swing Texas to a blue state. 2/3 of these Latinos coming in want socialism. They want the handout from the government, and so they want us to subsidize their population growth. While our population declines, they want us to pay for their population to get bigger while they take over California, and then eventually Mexico is going to annex it. So this is what Biden wants to do. Biden thinks that you and your family, you're too racist. Your family can't be in control of America because you're a privileged white person. So we have to replace you and your family with Mexicans and South Americans because you're racist, even though it's your children who are going to be suffering from this. So basically, Biden is targeting your children. He doesn't give a flying fuck about you. He just wants you to vote for him. He's called an ivory tower liberal. He'll tell you whatever you want to hear to get you to like his post, watch the ads, buy the product, and vote for him. So what's this wingnut saying? It says this week, Joe Biden's campaign released its fourth and final plank in the former vice president's package of economic ideas, a plan for racial economic equality. It's a 26-page rundown of policies ranging from a plan to boost small businesses to first-time home buyers. So what he wants to do is he wants to give money to minorities so they'll vote for him. So instead of helping you with your business, the majority of America, the 70 some odd % of Americans who are white, he wants to help the BLM Antifa Nazi terrorists who've been burning, rioting, looting, killing police officers, killing business owners, terrorizing communities, making you feel not safe at your home. Reading on in the article, but contained in his plan was a less flashy proposal, asking the Federal Reserve to explicitly take race into account when they set policy. Woo! You! This guy's a fucking fruitcake, bruh. Fruitcake! Quote, within its existing mandate of promoting maximum employment and stable prices, the Fed should aggressively enhance its surveillance of targeting persistence, racial gaps, jobs, wages, and wealth, the Biden plan says. What the Biden team is proposing isn't a total haul of monetary policy. Rather, it's more of a refocusing of the Fed's attentions into America's wide racial economic gaps, as well as making sure the Fed talks about those gaps. So here it goes down to the crux of the issue. He wants to give a bunch of money away to minority groups who've been murdering the people who are in this class, the ones at the bottom of the GPA scale, the ones that aren't trying in school at all, the ones that are getting into gangs and selling drugs and having crazy parties that are disturbing the neighbors, shooting people, torturing people, robbing, you name it, man, stealing cars. Like, they're nuts. Hood Democrats are some of the craziest people that you'll come across, man. Like, they'll kill you to take your Nike Air shoes. Can we find the video? Let's see if we can find the video of black people Nike Airs or Air Jordans. This tweet says black people spend $2 billion a year on Air Jordans, $4 billion a year on liquor, $20 billion a year on beauty products. Yet there's not one black community in America with 4 essential institutions, black-owned banks, schools, supermarkets, and hospitals. Well, yeah, that's because you didn't spend your money on it. Let's see. I'm looking for the video of those people in New York jumping the dude for his Air Jordans. Here's a video of some African Americans being violent over Air Jordans.
Air Jordans releases and get.
These are just pictures. Wrong video. That video sucked. Well, I'm not doing so good finding these ones. They do that. They'll rob you. They'll rob you for some Air Jordans. That's so crazy, dude. That is insane. That is one of the craziest things that you could actually possibly do. Let's keep reading on in this article. It says all right, okay, so what he wants to do is he wants them to talk about it, because when you talk, the more you talk about race, the more likely Biden is to get elected, because he can't get elected on his own merits. The only thing he's Mr. Magoo. This dude is Mr. Magoo, bro. Like, he can't get elected on his own merits. He can't. The only thing he can get elected on is by giving away money to minority groups in order to get them to vote for him, because he's an ivory tower liberal. He's a skis bag piece of shit. It says monetary policy isn't known for targeting particular subgroups. However, the Fed's main tools are more sledgehammers than scalpels. It's possible the policy could delay part of the shrinking gaps considerably, but there's some dispute over how effective it would be. So what Biden wants to do, he wants to make it so somebody who didn't try, somebody who ended up at the bottom of the graph here in the GPAs, he wants to make it so it's easier for them to buy a house. He wants to make it so that they get ahead in the line because you tried really hard and you didn't rob or kill anybody. You didn't go join any gangs. You didn't brutalize anybody, torture anybody. Never engaged in ultraviolence. But he wants to take money from you to give to people who did not try. Because as you can see, the Asians are at the top of the list. And Asians also, too, used to be slaves. They also, too, used to be impoverished. But somehow they ended up at the top of the list. And the reason why is because they have a really good attitude about education. Their attitude about education is really good. Better than the white guys. We need to learn from them. We need to do what they're doing. All except for the nut jobs that are going with the Winnie the Pooh shit. Like, those ones are crazy. Anybody who's trying to push Winnie the Pooh propaganda is a wingnut. So the Fed, their job is not to serve minorities. Their job in the Fed is to serve everyone in the economy. And that includes the people who have the money at the top. He's supposed to be there to put money in their pocket. He's not there to talk about racism. This is whack. Joe Biden is whack. Democrats are whack. Everything about this is whack. This next article from the Daily Mail. Florida teenager 17 is charged with a massive Twitter attack. Clark, 17, was arrested on Friday morning in Tampa after federal investigators zeroed in on him and faces 30 felony charges that will be prosecuted in state court. The article says prosecutors say he masterminded the largest social media breach in history. Federal prosecutors also unsealed charges against 2 other hackers. Madison Chewan Shepherd, 19, of the UK government was charged with conspiracy. Nima Rolex Fazeli, 22, of Orlando, Florida, was charged with abetting. Twitter accounts of dozens of famous personalities were hijacked, and they used a spear phishing technique, which is what they left out of it. But you have to congratulate Daily Mail. This format they have, for me, is really nice and easy to read. I'm going to have to say, even though Daily Mail puts out fake news all the time, and they have a really good NewsGuard certification, they do not deserve it. So they hacked Obama, Kim Kardashian, Kanye West, and Elon Musk. These were the highest priority ones that they hacked in their spear phishing campaign. In this next article from New Scientist, single particles of light can be used to remote 3D surveillance. Researchers have taken 3D images of bouncing individual photons from lasers off building 45 kilometers away, more than 4 times farther than ever before. So this is creepy, okay? This is the creepiest thing I've ever seen. I'm an engineer. I've seen a lot of creepy stuff. This is one of the creepiest. Okay, I think this is amazing. Talking really detailed 3D images from afar. It says taking 3D images, detailed 3D images from afar can be difficult without multiple cameras, but it's impossible using individual particles of light called photons. A team of researchers have now quadrupled the range of this technique, perhaps paving the way for creating such images from airplanes. Hui Zhu of University of Science and Technology from China and his colleagues used an existing single photon version of the method called LiDAR, which stands for light detecting range, to take their images. So, of course, it comes from the Nazi police state. And so I'm not subscribing to the thing. We're going to leave that as that. If you want to subscribe to the New Scientist, you probably should. I would definitely advocate it. They have cool articles. This next article from the New York Post, Twitter finally bans ex-KKK Grand Wizard David Duke. I don't know what he did, but I don't agree with deplatforming anyone. I don't support David Duke, don't support the KKK, but I don't hate them because I believe if I hate them, it's only going to make them more powerful. It's only going to make them hate me. It's only going to make it so that they have nowhere to go. they're going to be trapped in a world of hate. So if I stop hating them, then they won't be trapped in that world of hate. So this is my ideology on it. Former KKK leader David Duke has been permanently banned from Twitter for spewing hate speech on the social media platform. The company said Thursday Duke, a self-proclaimed white supremacist and ex-Grand Wizard of the Knights of the KKK, was, quote, permanently suspended, end quote, for violating rules of the hateful conduct, the company spokesman told CNBC. I think I remember reading this one, and I don't know what exactly they had in it. Let's check it out. The move follows YouTube's ban of Duke in June, comes after Twitter changed its policy in March, prohibited posts that promote violence or threats of violence against people based on their race, religion, and ethnicities. Duke's final tweet linked to an interview with German Holocaust denier Germer Rudolph, who is also convicted of the denial of his homeland, where it's a crime. See, this is the thing. They're enforcing European laws in America. This is fundamentally what I have the biggest problem with. Nazism came from Europe, from lefties, from socialists who were trying to do a hybrid system such as they use in Europe. Now, they don't have a dictator, but dictators can overthrow your country in a matter of years. They might not be in power now, but they might be in power in 5 years. This is the way dictators work. They work because this happens because they're incredibly popular and people support them. And so if you care about democracy, well, I guess you kind of have to put up with a dictator taking over every once in a while. Because if people vote for a dictator, that's what the women did in Germany. They got their voting rights in Germany, 1918. And they they elected fascists. That's what they did. They didn't get everything they wanted, so they took over because they wanted to make a socialist utopia where they could compete amongst themselves, because the Nazis thought the Democrats were way too racist. They were anti-racist, but they wanted to compete. They wanted to model their system after Jim Crow laws to scare off the Africans, because Hitler thought all the races were, a race was better than another one because they were more technologically superior and more powerful. They thought you can only compare one white person to another white person, one country to another, and then you would also then compare the other races the way that you would compare the other countries, because they were anti-racist. And then they modeled their laws after Jim Crow laws to scare off the Africans, because if they didn't, they would have lost the war. The Africans would have joined the war and they would have lost. And then they would have lost their homeland to Africa, which would have been the nightmare scenario for them. That would have been the thing that they didn't want. And that's why they invaded Russia when they did. Because when Hitler invaded Russia, it made it so if he lost, the socialists would win. That's why he did it. He wanted to continue the fight. It was the fight to the top. It was Hitler versus Stalin for the top most genocidal maniac in history. Stalin beat him pretty badly. So what does that have to do about this? I can't believe he would deny the Holocaust. I'm not going to hate on him for doing that. That's, I think that's crazy. He avowed, hold on. So yeah, it's a crime in Europe. So fascism came from Europe. That was my point. And so Europeans are also too attempting to take our freedom of speech away, even though we're in a different continent. So, and vowed to expose systemic racism lie, according to BBC. Another recent tweet claimed to expose the incitement of violence against white people by Jewish-owned media. And so this is that crap that the Democrats are spewing, of the Jews own the media because they hate the Israelis for occupying Palestine. But they don't know that the Palestinians were given the opportunity to have a one-state solution, but they denied it. And then they engaged in terrorism, and then they were forced to do that. But Democrats regularly engage in this conspiracy theory that the Jews own the media. They're notorious about it. They think that because the Republicans support the Israelis and the AI pack has so much power that the Jews must then control the Republicans and the media in order to get such coverage. They inadvertently fell into rabid anti-Semitism, like really bad anti-Semitism, and they think the Republicans are racist when they're white feminists. They're literally white feminists. In 2017, Duke was briefly booted from Twitter for promptly blamed Jews and enemies of Trump on his radio show. This is the heart of anti-Semitism. It does not mean that you do not like the Jewish religion. It's not, you're allowed to bash Christianity. You're allowed to bash Islam. Wait, not to a leftist. You can't bash Islam. That's hate speech. And so they blame the Israelis for something that somebody else did. Okay, the Israelis never wanted to be there. Okay, they did want to. The Israelis would have rather lived in Europe or wherever they came from, but they were discriminated against there, so they went to Israel. And then they ended up there. That was their homeland. That was where they wanted to be, but in reality, they didn't want to move in the first place. They only did so because they were forced to at gunpoint. And now they go back over here into Israel, and then again, they still have a gun pointed to their head. And this is why I have respect for the Israelis, because they are strong. They're beautiful. They're wonderful people. Beautiful women, beautiful men, strong, handsome men. Sorry, wrong word there. Reading on the article says, I exposed the fact the Israeli is an ethno-state, he said, according to the Jewish News site Forward. Quote, they're trying to make Trump go to jail and die in jail. They're going to war against me too. And so they think the Jews in the media are attacking Donald Trump. And to that effect, I've seen some stuff in the Israeli Times. It's kind of like that. I don't think it's exactly like that. It's a mixed bag. See, this is why you can't be blaming people for stuff other people did. Don't stereotype Jews. Not all the Israelis agree with the Palestinians. Everything that's happened. This is what the liberals don't understand. They think, oh, well, Israel's horrible because of what they've done. Then they don't understand that, not everybody wants that. It's something bad that happened that we don't know what to do with. So it's not their fault. This is why you should not hate them for it. But these Democrats, they used to own slaves. They started the KKK. They opposed women's suffrage. They passed the 1994 crime bill that created the prison industrial complex. So it's pretty understandable they would engage in the KKK was started by Democrats. So this guy was a Democrat. This David Duke was a Democrat, bro. He's a Democrat. It's true. Okay, this is getting long. How many more we got? 3 more. In this next article from New York Post, man who lost penis blood infection has one built on his arm. Wow. Malcolm McDonald, a British man whose penis fell off due to a severe blood infection, had a new one built onto his arm. And man, he doesn't look like a happy person. Could not blame him. Can't really show anything of it, of course. It's all blurred out, but that is the penis attached to the arm. And yes, apparently he can use it. A British Malcolm McDonald, 45, a mechanic, suffered horrific infection in his perineum that turned his fingers, toes, and manhood back, the Sun reported. Quote, I had struggled for years with an infection in my perineum. Had no idea what had happened. Separated dad from to Thetford, Norfolk, told the outlet. Quote, when I saw my penis go back black, I was beside myself. It was like a horror film. I was in a complete panic. I knew deep down it was gone and I was going to lose it. End quote. He said he was completely gutted when his penis just dropped on the floor in 2014 and his testicles remained intact, according to the outlet. Wow. Hurts just thinking about that one. Woo! Because I had been through the devastation of knowing I was going to lose it, I just picked it up and put it on the bin. McDonald continued, I went to the hospital and said the best thing it could do for me was to roll the remaining stump up like a sausage roll. It was heartbreaking. McDonald said he became a recluse and became drinking heavily. I probably would do that too. For 2 years after losing my penis, I felt like a shadow of a man. My life really fell apart because I had no self-confidence. I drank too much. Didn't see my family and friends. I just wanted to have to face it. I didn't want to have to face it, he said. Then I found out from a doctor or so-called penis master, Professor David Ralph of London University of College Hospital, the phallus expert enormously created a bionic penis for Andrew Wardle, who was born without one, according to The Sun. Quote, it gave me a glimmer of hope that I could go back to my normal bloke, end quote, McDonald told the outlet. Ralph said he could perform a arm graft procedure, which would take up to 2 years. Fortunately, he received funding for the procedure because it would eventually allow him to urinate properly, but not to perform sexually, according to the report. It was all my Christmases at once. I was so emotional because it was a chance at a new start, he said. I was worried about the procedure because I'd seen what Professor Ralph and his team could do. As far as I was concerned, they were miracle workers, and I was up to anything that could give me my willy back. Ooh. Apologize that you had to go through that. Definitely would feel the same way. My condolences about Jimmy. This next article from Newsweek. Biden nearly doubles his lead over Trump in 1 week, poll shows. These polls piss me off. This is fake news. Looks so real, right? Like, oh, Biden really was going ahead. The fake news says presumptive Democratic nominee Joe Biden, the white feminist who wants to take all your money away and give it away to minorities who would want to kill Trump supporters, double his lead over President Donald Trump in 1 week, according to the new national poll. According to the poll, 52% of respondents said they would vote for Biden if the election were held today, while 42% said they would choose Trump, giving the former president a 10-point lead. The poll, which was conducted by Data Progress, surveyed 794 registered voters. And so they're saying they have an error of a plus or minus 4%. Error of plus or minus 4%. These people are sleazebag dirtball liars. Liars. Liar, 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 pants on fire. There's about 3,007 counties in the United States. So let's take the fake news claim here. They have 4% plus or minus percent. Little lying fucktards, dude. This shit pisses me the fuck off, dude. So they call one person in every 4 counties in the United States. And then they lie to you and they tell you that they have a 4% chance of error because they sampled one person out of every 4th county in the United States. And in the fake news, this is all that you need in order to say that Donald Trump has 10% more. This is why Donald Trump won the first time. No, Donald Trump won the first time because he was spot on. I hated Donald Trump whenever I helped start the 2016 Portland anti-Trump protests. I thought he was a misogynistic pig because he said grab her by the pussy, and that he was a racist because he wanted to build the wall and kick out the illegal immigrants that were so oppressed by the white man. This is what they're doing. They're rigging polls. This is so stupid. This is fake. Fake news garbage. I see fake news from Newsweek all the fucking time. NewsGuard says they have a perfect certification. Newsweek is fucking garbage. It's fake news. This last article from Fake News Week. Tax-paying undocumented immigrants should get stimulus checks, Democrats tell McConnell. The request represents increasing bipartisan pressure for the Senate Majority Leader to ensure immigrant families receive cash assistance. Because the money that the taxpayers spend that's supposed to help Americans is now going to the Mexicans for them to send our tax money back to Mexico because they came here as a immigrant illegally. They were broke. That's why they came here, dude. They used to be impoverished. They spent years impoverished. They know how to live impoverished. And when you put people in constraints, and you do not give them socialism, and you do not give them a handout. This is what I did with my government check. I bought cameras. I bought fancy cameras. That's awesome. Uncle Sam is glad to buy me some cameras. Definitely. I did exactly what Uncle Sam wanted me to do with the money. In fact, I even put a lot of my own money. And money from the state of Oregon. So they want to take your money and ship it over to Mexico because they want the Latinos to vote for them. It doesn't matter whether or not the Latino is going to be better off without government assistance. No, they want you to have the government assistance. They want you to take our tax money and go send it back home because that's what these immigrants are doing most of the time when they come up here. They want to come up. This is why they're risking their life, is to bring their family up and send money back. That's what they're doing. 1 in 20 Mexican citizens is in the United States illegally. 1 in 20. Their population's supposed to go down, but it's going up because of the Democrat laws. Why? Because they want to boost the number of U.S. House seats they have. They want the Latinos to have this money because they want them to vote for them, and they want their family to be bigger because they want them to vote for Democrats. It's because they're slimeball, ivory tower liberals. They'll tell you whatever you want to hear to get you to like the post, watch the ads, buy the product, and vote for them. And with that, I'm signing out. Thank you for watching Real Simple News with Coffee on Saturday, August 1st, 2020. Again, I am your host, Cale McCullough, captain of the Kabuki Starship, which, okay, at least you're like, he's great. No, I actually have a really neat design for a theoretical starship. They're made out, it's different. It's a different physics. It's an oscillatory thing. It's these two balls that shoot things back and forth with these pistons. And it allows you to live in outer space. And it allows you to colonize other planets, theoretically, but we might not have enough materials to actually make the spacecraft. Thus, it is theoretical. But, as I say every time, thanks again for watching. And as I say every time, aloha, farewell, sayonara, peace be with you, and Godspeed in your journeys, friend.